Hey there. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my Docker environment and the environment I have set up to do data analytics in general. I have done a lot of development, a lot of tweaking, and a lot of making the environment comfortable and easy for me to use. Makes me very productive. I have a Jupyter environment over here. I do most of my Python development in this environment. It also has a Julia and R kernel. In case there's anything I'm running that I want to take a look at and do some things. There's actually a data deduplication lab in Julia that I'm actually exploring right now. So that's there. I have my R Studio environment. That's primarily where I do my R environment, R development. Of course, I have other kernels in there as well. This is a fully fleshed out tidyverse environment, as well as it has a lot of geospatial extensions. I use that mostly for my analysis and mapping type of things. Um, the Docker environment has a Postgres database that lives as a back end thing, although I don't use it that much these days, so I may just remove it because I use external databases. But it does have a PG admin interface. I use that to connect and talk to um, my databases. Uh, any analyst who does real world stuff will tell you need to have SQL skills above and beyond R and Python. I mean, if you don't know SQL, you're going to have a whole world of hurt. Uh, things are so much, sometimes things and certain things are so much easier in there. And if you're working in a small team where you're doing a bunch of different tasks and different parts of the process, you're going to have to learn it all yourself anyways. Shiny. I have a Shiny environment, so when I'm done with my R analysis and everything else, I can publish it out to the web and do data visualizations that way. At work, we started implementing and looking at cloud data warehouses. So data ingestion, data manipulation is being done, or at least we're looking at doing it with Databricks and Spark environments. So I have a Spark master and two slaves sitting in the Docker environment now, accessed through another Jupyter Lab front end. And I have a Python, I think it's 3.9, R, R environment, and then Scala. So I can access all of that, PySpark, SparkR, and then there's also a Neo4j graph database that I have out there that if I need to do any work within graph databases, I can actually look and do some of that. I'm not too familiar with that. I only used it a few times. So let's take a look at some of the different things. So we can see here, this is my Python environment. It's a fully fleshed out here. My launcher. I have my Python kernel, my Julia, my R kernels this way. You can do different things with separate files. You can do it directly within the console. You can use the notebooks. I like taking notes of what I'm working on because I work on a lot of different things, piecemeal here and there. So you never know what you're going to be looking at. I may work on something and not look at it for another 3 months, and then I wonder what I did. So this way, with notebooks, I can keep notes and track what I've been doing easier. This is a little bit of a database that I'm actually pulling about all the prices for all of the published cruise fares from 12 different cruise lines. I do this about every day, and then do some data cleanup, and then I start in one of my Postgres databases, and then, like I said, I run then some SQL code. I mean, right now we're talking 15 million rows of data that I'm updating on a daily basis. Uh, Makes a lot of sense to run this through an engine that can handle it better, so Postgres database makes a lot of sense there. Uh, Trying to get back out. Going over here, this is something I just started, and this is a our environment. I noticed someone had tweeted out some misinformation about Wake County property data, so I figured I'd look at some of this morning. So I basically pulled down the same parcel file that they referred to, and I started looking through it a little bit. Just basically haven't done anything more than load the data and set up some information about what's actually stored within the file. I don't work with this data, haven't for the past few years, but I figure, like I said, I work mostly within R Markdown here because I like to take notes, as I said, and I work on something and I don't come back to it for a while. It's a fully fleshed out here. Here's where I store my my R files. Here's where my data thing is. If I had plots and I'd done anything with that already, you would see that here. My PG admin thing, here's where I connect to the databases. This stores all that cruise data, and then I also have one out there for North Carolina elections data. I have 10 years worth of financial transactions as well as race results and candidate information. Whole bunch of stuff. And then I'm working on some ways to store PDFs and do some OCR with that data as well. One thing I will say, my environment has persistence across the various aspects of here. If you go in here, here's my data science environment. All this has been set up through my Docker Compose script, and I have all my data that's stored stored in that directory. It is accessible from my Jupyter environment, my R environment, my Shiny environment, and not my Databricks environment. Databricks environment uses a simulated Hadoop file system, so it has its own little world that it lives in. PG admin also, I can store and save data, backup data, do it that way there. My Python code lives within that notebooks directory. You can see I have my IP. I can also work with this through VS Code if I feel like it. I don't do it too much, but I do that. Here's my RStudio environment again. All of this is persisted on my hard drive, so even if I completely reset my Docker environment and clean that up and start fresh there, I have all of that. Usually what I do is I also keep a section of my project scripts will have reloading of necessary packages, although like I said, I've taken the time to actually install many of the packages I use on a regular basis, so I don't have to do that with every new project. It saves a lot of time, a lot of things, plus I'm, the things I'm more familiar with, dplyr, Lubridate, things like that, when I'm working on with a thing like that, when I'm working, ggplot, Seaborn, pandas, and, Python. I have all of that set up. It's all there. It's robust. It helps me. It keeps me focused on solving the problem and not worrying about my environment, making sure it's set up right, if I have the right version of this, I have the right version of that. Also, I'm working on my home computer, but my work computer has a very similar Docker environment, if not the same exact Docker environment, so I know I have all the right versioning. So if I do work from one project to another, maybe start something at work or at home, swap things around, I know I'm working in the same environment, although there's, that I have to move files a little bit differently. So, but all that is done just to keep me more productive, keep me more focused on solving problems and not maintaining environments, because I really hate doing it. Anyways, I also have made the libraries available on GitHub. GitHub/ChrisTheDBA. You can go out there and see my Docker Compose data science environment. Right now, the documentation is a little sparse. There's the Docker Compose, and most everything in the Docker environment will get downloaded and the images built there, but I did do a lot of work with the Jupyter environment, and my Docker files are there. Everything else is kind of done through customization within the Docker Compose itself. So there you have it. It's a wonderful environment. Anyone could do this. It doesn't take a whole lot, but it's just available, something I can give back to folks. So if you're interested, go ahead and download it and implement it. Ask me questions. I'm here to answer anything you might have. So thanks a lot.